Thank you so much, and Chris, thank you for that nice introduction. Monty, thanks for getting the crowd all riled up and fired to go. He does such a great job with that, and you're very lucky to have him and his leadership. You know, it's always great to be here to kick off the new year with the members of the Iowa Renewable Fuels Association. 2023 was a great year for ethanol and biodiesel, as all of you kind of defied drought, regulatory uncertainty, and high inflation to meet record demand for renewable fuels at home and abroad. Now, I think you know how proud I am to be the governor of America's #1 ethanol and bioproducing state. It's something I highlight, brag about, every chance I get, but I think actions speak louder than words. And it doesn't get much louder than the priorities that we've enacted to support our farm families, enhance market opportunities, and reinforce the diversity of our agricultural industry. And that starts, of course, with our landmark biofuels bill, which made Iowa the first state in the nation to enact an E15 standard, double the biodiesel production tax credit, and lead to the largest expansion of biofuels in our history, all while inspiring other states like Nebraska to follow our lead. And it absolutely never would have happened without our close partnership with the Iowa RFA. And I can tell you, I want to be sure and let you know how much and how grateful we are for that partnership and the continued partnership. You know, I'm also proud to be leading the fight for year-round ethanol sales. I was pleased to see that the EPA sent its proposed rule to OMB, but as you know, the job's not done. We won't let up until we make the right decision for producers and consumers alike. The progress that we've made on this issue shows how important it is to stand up to the Biden administration, which has so often failed to deliver for the biofuels industry. You know, while I was encouraged, again, to see the guidance from the Treasury Department that would allow ethanol and biodiesel to be part of aviation's sustainable fuel solution, as you know, and as I've indicated, we still must continue to hold the administration to its promises. Together with our congressional delegation, and I want to just commend them as well. They are fighting day in and day out, and let's give them a round of applause for all that they have done to hold accountable against some pretty tough challenges. And while we maintain and advance our competitive edge in the global marketplace, we must also secure our farmland here at home. As you know, China continues to grow more aggressive in buying American land. Fortunately, I'm proud to say that Iowa already has some of the strongest laws in the country on foreign ownership of land. In fact, we've seen other states look to us as a model for their own policies. But as China's threat adapts, our laws should too. We absolutely cannot let foreign governments undermine the agricultural dominance our farmers have worked so hard to build. To that end, we've been working with Secretary of Ag Neg and AG Byrd. Together, we've designed a bill to further protect our farmland from foreign interest. It will enhance reporting and enforcement, increase penalties, and provide transparency to Iowans on what land is currently under foreign ownership. With this bill, Iowa will continue to lead the nation and keep American soil in American hands. You know, it's equally important as we look beyond Iowa's border for increasing market access overseas for our homegrown commodities. It's vital to the future of agriculture, renewable fuels, and other industries our state depends on. And that's why I'm convening a diverse group of industry professionals to help inform me on matters that are related to trade, export promotion, and market access to increase our competitiveness in the global marketplace. I'm excited to continue using my position as governor to raise Iowa's profile around the world. While agriculture and renewable fuels remain the foundation of our state's prosperity, our economic diversity is also a key asset. To build on this strength, we've worked hard to make our tax code more competitive and let Iowans keep more of their hard-earned money. When I took office in 2018, Iowa's income tax rate was the 6th highest in the nation at 8.98%. It was clear that we needed to make a change, and that's exactly what we did. Our most recent tax reform package provided farm families new options for tax relief when they rent or sell their land upon retirement, while establishing a flat 3.9% income tax rate by 2026. But today it's clear, I think, that we can go further and we can go faster. So this week in the condition of the state, I proposed that that the legislature reduce the rate to 3.65% effective this year, retroactive back to January 1, and the following year in 2025, the rate would again fall to a flat 3.5%. The bill represents a total savings of almost $3.8 billion for taxpayers over the next 5 years, and it gets there by cutting taxes for every Iowan who pays for them. So this past Tuesday, I delivered my 7th condition of the state address, and it's hard to believe it's been 7, but I was proud to report once again that the condition of our state is strong, and that Iowa is on the rise as the world truly descends on our state over the next week. What they're going to see is one of the most livable, most affordable states in the country, a state that's #1 for retirement and #1 for young professional home ownership. They're going to see what it's like to live in a state that saves more than it spends, cuts taxes, and rewards economic growth and innovation, that orients its educational system to students, parents, and teachers, where life is protected, family comes first, and community runs deep. They're going to experience Iowa nice and remarkable people at every turn. And there's no greater confirmation of this than the incredible Iowans who make up our state's unmatched renewable fuels industry. Thank you again for all that you do for our state, for our communities, for our economy, and I can't wait to see how much further that we can go and grow together. So thank you very much. God bless you. Thanks for all you do. We're okay? Thank you. So the experience of Iowa's renewable fuels industry in Washington certainly holds a clear lesson that leadership matters. And that's why I'm so pleased to introduce one of the most effective leaders I've ever seen, a close friend, and he was the first candidate to check all boxes for the Biofuels Vision 2024. And that leader is Governor Ron DeSantis. We've had the opportunity to travel every corner of this state together, and I can tell you he's the real deal. And if you like what we're doing in Iowa, you're going to love what Ron will do for this country. Ron will fight for you, and he'll get things done in Washington, D.C. And all you have to do is to look to his record in Florida. He has followed through on 100% of the promises he made to the people of Florida. And that's exactly what we need right now. Someone who's focused, disciplined, and principled. Someone who will, on day one, get things done. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Governor Ron DeSantis.
Good morning. Great to be with you all. Probably a little rare. Us Floridians usually don't go north in January. It's usually half the Midwest coming down to Florida, and I can tell you, I think it's about 75 degrees in Bonita Springs and Naples right now, and just some of the people that I've met along the way here in Iowa have already decamped down there and are going to enjoy the next few months in some good weather. But it's great to be here, and I'm proud to have been able to do an all 99 county full Grassley tour throughout the course of this campaign. And part of it is, I actually get criticized for this. They say, oh, well, you're putting too much time in, because it takes time. I mean, it's a big state land-wise. You got long drives. It's not something that just happens. And we did bona fide events. It's not like we're just stopping to get gas. We're going, we're talking with people. We're doing the whole 9 yards. And sometimes people say, well, you know, you're doing that. But I'll tell you this, having done that, I think you come out better. I think you come out better as a dad, as a husband, as a governor, as a presidential candidate, and you will be a better president having gone and actually spoken with people on the ground, learned about the issues in their communities, answered their questions, and then think about how you would be able to do things to make things better going forward as President of the United States. So it's been a great experience to be able to do that. We've got a lot of problems in this country, but what I've been able to see here in Iowa is I've seen people that are hardworking, God-fearing, patriotic folks, and that represents the backbone of this country, and that's the type of values that we need to turn this country around. So as part of those travels, we've been able to go and meet with folks in all facets of the agriculture industry, including the biofuels industry, and I've been able to learn a lot about the critical role that plays in small communities, bigger communities, how it impacts the economy, jobs, and then, of course, overall thinking from the perspective of somebody nationally that believes that Americans should be producing its own energy. I want American jobs. I want American-produced energy. I don't want to go hat in hand to Saudi Arabia and beg for energy. I don't want to have to rely on Venezuela. So we have an ability here in the United States to do an all-of-the-above strategy, including biofuels. And so I've learned what are the challenges that are facing, what could be helpful, and I'm fortunate to have the support of Governor Kim Reynolds, who's done a fantastic job here in Iowa and is one of the best governors we have in America. And I know this, as issues come up, not just with biofuels, but agriculture generally, Governor Reynolds will be somebody that I'll be relying on for guidance as things happen. So we've been able to go talk with a lot of people, what could be helpful to be able to take the industry to the next level, and I have checked all the boxes that they were looking for, but things like E15 being year-round. Why do you have to stop doing that, once you hit a perspective on the calendar? So that's something that I'm supportive of. I think it will be helpful for folks here in the Midwest. It also gives people more choices in terms of the fuel that they use. But then you also look, there's possibilities of doing much higher blends, and there should be a waiver. Let people do that. If they want to do that, I know they actually do it some places. You could develop more of a market that way. So we'll be willing to do that and really lean in on those issues. We also, just in terms of agriculture writ large, we have an issue in this country of government and bureaucracy getting involved in ways that are undermining the ability for farmers to do their jobs. And we even have other states that are impacting the ability of people to do their jobs in places like Iowa. So, for example, this Proposition 12 out of California basically now is regulating how you produce pork in other states, including here in Iowa. I don't think that that's healthy for this country to have our parts of our society's economy, national economy, governed by just one state's whims, but particularly California's whims. I mean, if you were going to do one state and it was like Iowa or Florida, maybe you could get away with that. But do we really want to live under people are fleeing California because of the bad policies. So we're going to address that, because I think the Prop 12, how it's impacted the pork producers, that's one issue that's important. But I think that model is something that they would likely use much longer, and I think it'd be a big problem. So you can count on me to do that. Also, you have these agencies like the EPA coming on people's farms, saying that there's a puddle and that's the waters of the U.S. And I know the Supreme Court curtailed that, but the Biden administration wants to go, and they're going to keep trying to do and just keep trying to exercise more jurisdiction. We're going to rein in the bureaucracy when I'm president, because I think it's out of control. It's not something that's responsive to the American people and even the results of elections. You have folks that are unelected, unaccountable, and they have an agenda. and they're pursuing that agenda. And that is not something that is good for our economy as a whole, and it's certainly not something that's good for the agriculture industry. The other thing that I think is a threat is this whole ESG movement, environment, social governance. And they basically say that it's about climate change, and they have different hobby horses that they want to organize the economy around. So Wall Street banks, asset managers, other major institutions kind of putting their thumb on the scale and using their economic power to be able to change behavior throughout society effectively. That ESG, yes, they target energy, they target other things, but one of the things that they really blame and target for things like global warming is agriculture. And they have their heart set on trying to really upend how farmers do their jobs. Taken to its conclusion, it will lead to a farm crisis in this country. They don't know how any of this stuff works. They have an ideological agenda that they're trying to impose. Now in Florida, we've seen this threat for what it is. We've kneecapped ESG in the state of Florida. So we do not allow ESG in our pension funds. We do not allow social credit scores. They're not allowed to do ESG criteria when they're determining your credit worthiness. They're not allowed to use ESG criteria when they're rating state and municipal bonds. And so that's been a big pushback against it. You now see it starting to wane. Even BlackRock had to lay off some of their ESG people there. But this is definitely something that the Biden administration's pursuing, and we need to come in and we need to just nix that once and for all. First of all, they're pursuing things that I think are not healthy for our society, for our country, and for jobs. But even more than that, it's not good for this country to have the economy be politicized to where companies are taking positions on this or that. They're pursuing different types of social agenda. That just doesn't work in terms of if you really want a strong economy where you're going to be able to grow and be strong and be vibrant. So you can count on me to nix this whole idea of ESG. We're not going down the road where all that stuff is going to factor in to your ability to get a loan or to just do business as we've always been able to do throughout the history of this country. We also need to go and look and just see where is our economy going, what's the fiscal posture of this country. In Florida, we've shown, people will show the national debt clock, I think it's in New York City, always going up. So we're now $34+ trillion in debt. And I've asked, can they do a debt clock for the state of Florida? Because if you did, it would be counting down, not up, because we're paying off debt at a record rate. Just since I've been governor, we've paid off 25% of our state's debt while cutting taxes in a big way and while making key investments in infrastructure, in some of our waterways because we have great fishing, our schools, school choice, teacher pay, all this stuff. So we've shown that you can do it and you can do it right. Washington has done it in the total opposite way, where this debt keeps mounting. The inflation that we've experienced is largely as a result of federal government borrowing, spending, and printing so much money. And so they don't necessarily face the repercussions in D.C. You're paying more for everything that's going on. So we need a change in direction in that, but you got to have a president that's going to be willing to lean in and push back against the amount of money that they're spending in Washington without any type of accountability. And that's why, I'm a big believer that you need structural reform in Washington because the incentives are what they are, and they're likely going to continue to produce the same thing. That's why I'm a supporter of term limits for members of Congress. That's why I'm a supporter of a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. I've got to balance the budget in Florida. Iowa has to balance its budget. Why does Washington get a pass? I'm supportive of a line item veto for the president so you can veto individual spending items and get the budget back in good shape. So these are all things that we're going to pursue working with the states when we get to Washington. So it's an honor to be here. I want to thank everybody for, I know many of you I've been able to meet along the way. I've taken a number of different tours of farms, of ethanol plants, of things that really are important to these communities. And I understand that in a firsthand way. And it'll be something that I'll be able to carry with me as we go forward into the next administration. I know it's going to be cold on Monday. I was here last week and I was in different parts of Iowa. It was like 20 25, 28, 30 degrees. And I'm just like, look, I'm a Floridian. I usually don't handle. I can handle this. This is no problem. 28 degrees, especially with not being windy. Yeah, bring it on. No problem. As soon as I started saying that, they started producing the weather report for what it was going to look like this weekend and in the Iowa caucus night. And I haven't ever experienced negative 15 degrees in my life. So I actually had to go back to Florida at the beginning of the week to give the State of the State address, just like Governor Reynolds had to do here. And when I flew back. And I actually do have a winter coat, believe it or not, to go over the suit. It's pretty nice. And I left the winter coat in Tallahassee. So they're now doing an operation to be able to get that winter coat up. We've also I've got the scarves, I've got different things to be able to cover up, because they tell me it's like, you can go and if it's like 20 degrees, you may be able to just hack that being out there. But once it gets to be negative and with the wind chill, just your exposed skin, it really, really starts to do. So we're going to be loaded for that. I hope people turn out in big numbers. I know it's not easy. I'm asking for your support on caucus night. We have an opportunity to take this country in a very positive direction. I'm a guy, I'm running on your issues and your family's issues and this country's issues. I'm not running for any other reason. I see we have a job to do. I have a record of delivering on 100% of my promises, in Florida producing big results. I have a history, of defeating a lot of the people that have caused a lot of these problems throughout our country on issue after issue and putting up big wins, and that'll be my sole focus as the next president of the United States. Ultimately, the future of the country is in our hands. We can complain about things that are happening, but decline is a choice, and we have an opportunity to choose a better path. When our founders created the Constitution in Philadelphia, Benjamin Franklin left that convention after they had created the Constitution. He was asked, "Did you give us a republic or a monarchy?" And his answer was, "A republic if you can keep it." You can have the best Declaration of Independence in the world. You can have the best Constitution in the world. These things don't run on autopilot. They require every generation of Americans to step up and defend freedom when it's at risk. Now is the time to step up. As the nominee, I'll get the job done across the board electorally. As a leader, I'll be someone that you can be proud of. And as the president, I will get the job done, and I will not let you down. Thank you all. God bless you. Appreciate you. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thank you very much. God bless y'all. God bless the state of Iowa.
The Iowa Renewable Fuels Association is proud to recognize Sarloff Limited as a silver sponsor for the 2024 Iowa Renewable Fuels Summit. Sarloff Limited, providing the CO2, LNG, and industrial refrigeration markets with world-class process systems. The Iowa Renewable Fuels Association is proud to recognize Chemin Industries as a silver sponsor for the 2024 Iowa Renewable Fuels Summit, rooted in science, driven by demand.
Good morning. I'm Rick Schwark, President and CEO of Absolute Energy, an ethanol plant in St. Ansgar, Iowa. Emily Score joined Growth Energy as CEO in May of 2016. She leads the country's premier biofuels trade association, representing 96 producers, 113 associated companies, and tens of thousands of ethanol supporters around the country who work to bring consumers cleaner burning, more affordable fuel, and more choices at the pump. Please join me in welcoming Emily to give Summit's industry's keynote address.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Can you still hear me? All right. It is wonderful to be here at the 2024 Iowa Renewable Fuels Association Summit, and I want to congratulate Iowa RFA staff and board and members. You've got a fantastic lineup. I am truly humbled to be part of it. Great turnout, wonderful event, and it's just reflective of the leadership you display for the industry year-round, so congratulations. Now, it is hard to believe, but the last time I spoke to you all from the stage was 2018. From then to now, the growth and the evolution in our industry has been transformative. Our great champion, Secretary Vilsack, refers to it as a biofuel renaissance, and he's right. In our organization, Growth Energy, we have been going through our own renaissance alongside our members. We now represent 96 biorefineries across the country. Our members purchase 20% of U.S. corn and represent 60% of all U.S. bioethanol production capacity. In Iowa alone, our 26 member plants now represent more than 3 billion gallons of capacity, providing a market for more than 1 billion bushels of local corn. Last year, we welcomed Cargill, the largest privately held company in America, with Iowa plants in Eddyville and Fort Dodge. Our growing membership continues to lead the charge toward net zero carbon through investments at the plant and collaborations with growers to optimize climate-smart farm practices, all things that will benefit our nation's agricultural economy for decades to come. We've raced to the front lines of carbon capture technology. We are redirecting emissions into all kinds of useful applications, from treating municipal water to storing vaccines. What was just a co-product is now the most important nutrient-rich animal feed in the world. And moving forward, our members are well positioned to supply the feedstock for sustainable aviation fuel, a potential 25 billion gallon U.S. market in the decades ahead. The bioeconomy is our entire mission at Growth Energy, cultivating it, expanding it, accelerating its growth by breaking down barriers and securing policies that recognize our innovations and advancements. We are making sure our members get the attention and the credit they deserve for investing in science and labor, for producing an endless variety of renewable plant-based fuels and products. On that front, the Renewable Fuels Standard remains one of our most important tools for driving demand. As you know, we gained new ground in 2023. We secured 3 years of certainty under the RFS. 3 years is a big step. In the past, we've had 1 or none at all. Now, protecting the RFS has always required vigilance, and this year will be no different. Again, the RFS is on trial. Again, our environmental bona fides are under fire. Opponents are challenging us with all kinds of litigation, from endangered species to refinery exemptions to blending requirements. Fortunately, after years of very hard work, the EPA has largely taken our side. But these decisions need to stand up in court. The RFS will need a clear and accurate defense. And we will continue to be there along the agency, marshaling facts, presenting research, and deploying legal arguments until this fight is won. Alongside allies like Iowa RFA, we will ensure that America's most successful clean energy policy keeps delivering the market access we need to expand the bioeconomy. A strong RFS helps accelerate toward the new norm of E15 fueling virtually every car, every day across the country. Thanks to champions in this room, Governor Reynolds, we can point to Iowa's E15 standard as the national model. Nebraska has already followed suit, and we're exploring strategies across the Midwest. 5 states have also updated incentives for E15. Last summer, E15 saved drivers on average 15 cents per gallon compared to standard E10 fuel choices. In some states, drivers saw savings reach 40 to 60 cents per gallon. As you well know, continuing and accelerating this momentum depends on federal decisions to let consumers access E15 year-round. Midwestern states, led by your own Governor Reynolds and Attorney General Byrd, have stepped up to show real leadership on this issue. For nearly 2 years, they have demanded EPA act on a rule that would allow year-round E15 in 8 states, including Iowa. The rule is now in final review. But unfortunately, because of delay tactics by refiners and EPA, it's unlikely to take effect this summer. We need to see much faster progress on a rule that will be effective this year. At the same time, we don't want E15 to simply become a regional niche fuel. So we continue our work with lawmakers to adopt a permanent legislative solution that will apply nationwide. We cannot build the long-term future Americans deserve one state or one temporary waiver at a time. Fortunately, the public is increasingly on our side. More and more drivers are seeking higher biofuel blends, and that's no mistake. You may have seen that last year, Growth Energy debuted the Green American Road Trip as part of our Get Biofuel campaign. We partnered with Shawn Johnson East, the gold medal Olympian and best-selling author. Shawn and her family drove across the Midwest. They stopped right here in Des Moines, and they met with Iowa Corn. And during the trip, the East family showed drivers and all of their followers how they can lower carbon emissions and save money with unleaded 88. This direct consumer engagement worked. Every E15 retailer that participated in the Get Biofuel program in 2023 sold more E15 than those who didn't. And we continue to work with fuel retailers in other ways to expand higher blends, supporting their marketing, navigating regulatory barriers. We support them as they win infrastructure grants from USDA, and we're proud that our team wrote half of all grants submitted last year. With our help, these retailers are sparking their own E15 renaissance. In 2023, nearly half of new E15 stores chose to sell E15 as their base grade fuel rather than as an added offering. All told, nearly 300 locations now have replaced 87 E10 with E15 as their mainstream fuel offering. This move delivers on average 6 times more E15 sales per store, and this trend will continue to accelerate in the months and the years ahead. Of course, leading the bioeconomy also involves other critical priorities. That starts with new tax credits that can increase the value of every single gallon of bioethanol produced on American soil. As you know, we scored some huge wins in the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act. The package phases in new incentives designed to spur investment in SAF, carbon capture, and other clean fuels where biofuel producers are leading the way. The law also allocates $500 million to help our retail partners expand options at the pump. But our ultimate ability to access these incentives still remains uncertain. We need the Treasury Department to implement tax credits in ways that allow bioethanol producers to accelerate our climate progress while expanding economic opportunity across rural America. We cannot let the U.S. tax code put agriculture on the sidelines. The carbon modeling needs to follow the best available science. That means the GREET model from Argonne National Lab. It's the global standard for modeling agriculture-based energy. Just last month, Treasury issued new guidance recognizing the merits of using the GREET model for the SAF tax credit. And this is a very important first step, but the work is not done because tax credit eligibility will be based on an updated GREET model, a 40B GREET. It likely won't be the GREET that we know. Environmental groups continue to urge Treasury to make inaccurate and outdated assumptions about land use change. They are vocal, they're persistent, but they're also wrong. They seek to block the only viable source of clean, renewable energy that is available at sufficient scale to decarbonize the skies. That's us, by the way. So we continue to call on the administration for a clear path forward that allows us to help them advance their goals. And that will only happen with the help from Democratic champions who have the ear of the White House. They have helped us get to this point, and we will continue together our full court press. From day one, the entire supply chain has advocated on this issue with great unity, from producers to growers to major airlines. It's a unified front to make certain that this administration follows sound science. We're making a similar case on the administration's proposed tailpipe emission standards, which reflect a dogmatic fixation on EVs. It presents a false choice between only two paths forward: fossil fuel-only vehicles or mass adoption of EVs. Neither of these hypotheticals reflect reality. EPA's framework blatantly ignores the proven, available, American-made solution of biofuels. It picks one technology over all others, disregarding the carbon savings potential within liquid fuels, which we know will continue to power the majority of cars on the road for decades to come. If you're reading the headlines, you're seeing that with every passing month, there's more evidence that EVs alone will not get us to a net zero future. Biofuels must be part of the equation. Of course, our engagement on the Republican side is no less critical. Not a single GOP lawmaker voted for IRA, but their support will be important for protecting and even extending new tax credits for the long term. We saw this last April when our champions here in Iowa led a small but powerful contingent of 8 lawmakers who stood strong against their own party. They forced House leaders to preserve rural America's share of the IRA during budget negotiations. Now we need to grow that coalition by communicating more effectively with Republicans on the logic of our low carbon. According to our data, if implemented properly, the 45Z tax credit alone would add $21.2 billion to the U.S. economy, generate nearly $13.4 billion in household income, support more than 192,000 jobs across all economic sectors, and importantly, provide farmers with a 10% premium on low-carbon corn used at an ethanol plant. The facts are strong for rural communities, for energy security, for consumers, for the future of liquid fuels. The story is compelling, but it is up to us to share it. Lawmakers across the spectrum, including Republicans, want to connect with a growing share of voters who care about clean energy, as long as the emphasis is on affordability, reliability, and made in America. And that is where biofuels shine. We face a similar challenge when it comes to carbon capture. From vehicle fuels to SAF to other bioproducts, so much of our growth opportunity depends on our ability to access new infrastructure for transporting and sequestering CO2. Growth Energy was proud to have Summit, Navigator, and Wolf join our ranks. We shared in the disappointment when highly valuable projects fell victim to misinformation and unfortunate politics. But these efforts remain vital to rural America. We need the pipelines, and we cannot build them without local support. Farmers who have been pillars of the community for generations, municipal and state officials across the political spectrum, they're the key players who can drive the local support. It's up to us to bring them up to speed. It's our job to help our neighbors connect the dots to see how our communities will benefit very directly from carbon transportation and storage. Now, as you know, our advocacy efforts don't stop at our borders. Better recognition of our industry's contributions will have a significant impact on our nation's opportunity to market internationally. Our priorities for global and domestic engagement are quite consistent. We have to get the modeling right. We have to expand access to new markets. We have to make sure regulators enforce laws already on the books. That's why we're pressing our own leaders so hard to set an example by making GREET the centerpiece of every clean energy strategy on land, sea, and air. Thankfully, there is no better time to educate policymakers than a presidential election year. Granted, this campaign season is like no other. Democrats are shuffling their primaries, and Iowa is seeing fewer opportunities for the kind of retail politics that voters expect. But we're not letting any of that get in our way. We are working to cultivate allies and maximize the number of office holders who make firm commitments to bioethanol. The proof is going to be right here on this stage where major candidates, Governor Hutchinson, Ambassador Haley, Governor DeSantis, are presenting detailed, nuanced agendas for expanding the bioeconomy. And I'm confident they will continue supporting the bioeconomy regardless of whether they capture their party's nomination. To that end, I am especially grateful to those of you who have opened your doors to candidates as they barnstormed Iowa. You showed them the full potential of the bioeconomy. And Iowa is just the tip of the spear. Growth Energy members will continue the push in other states for the next 10 months. Through that engagement, we'll continue to remind our elected leaders how this industry is expanding America's bioeconomy, how we are inspiring new ways to create more with less, more yield with less waste, more energy with less pollution, more prosperity with less dependence. So thank you, as always, for making Iowa a shining example of what this industry can achieve. The future is here. It is happening right now. And that's why it's critical that we maintain bipartisan support for expanding the markets, reinforce the importance of sound science and accurate carbon modeling guidelines, and drive our own narrative, show that we are the solution to a low-carbon future. If we want to succeed, we have to get this right. And no one knows that better than our neighbors and allies here in Iowa. We are proud to stand alongside each and every one of you and help lead the charge across the country and across the world. Thank you.
Please help me once again thank Emily for her great work in growing American-made, clean, green, renewable bioethanol. Thank you.
At Growth Energy, we're reimagining what's possible with crops. Our members make low-carbon fuels, high-protein animal feed, and supply plant-based ingredients for everything from cleaning products to bioplastics. Our industry provides domestic, renewable energy solutions. We represent producers who transform abundant supplies of grain into a cleaner, healthier future for us all. Growth Energy, expanding America's bioeconomy.
Get more. That's our promise. When you work with FluidQuip Technologies, you get more. Our team of engineers provide expertise you can rely on and the excellence you expect. We are the expert partner that will help your ethanol plant thrive. The partner that has the knowledge and expertise to help you get from point A to point B. The partner that will help you get more. FluidQuip Technologies.
My name is Nick Bowdish, and I'm President and CEO of Elite Octane in Atlantic, Iowa. It's my distinct honor to introduce our next speaker,
The Iowa Renewable Fuels Association.
Who was born in a small town. She challenged the establishment and was elected to the state legislature. When the old guard didn't like her reform ideas and tried to freeze her out, she ran for governor of South Carolina and won. That was 2010. In 2016, she became the United States ambassador to the United Nations, and now she is running for president. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Ambassador Nikki Haley to share her biofuels vision.
Good morning. You know, there's one thing I know. I am not in South Carolina anymore. It is cold here, and I have been campaigning here for 11 months. And I would say back in October and November and December, I'm like, it's cold. And everybody was like, no, it's mild. And I'm like, no, it's really cold. I get it now. I totally get it. It's great to be here. Thank you for taking the time. You know, we are 4 days away from caucus. And what I love is Iowa sets the stage. It sets the direction on where we're going to go. And you look at our country, and we've got a country in disarray and a world on fire. You don't have to turn on the news to see how bad it is. You feel it when you go to the grocery store. You feel it at the gas station. You feel it with your mortgage payment, your insurance payments, your business expenses. Everything has gone up. And I would love to tell you that Biden did that. But our Republicans did that to us too. We are now $34 trillion in debt. We're having to borrow money just to make our interest payments. China owns some of that debt. That's why I personally think it's time to have an accountant in the White House. But I'll tell you, the way we deal with that is first you have to accept the fact that we have a problem, and you have to call them out on it. That's why we're going to make sure that we focus on what we can do immediately. We'll start by clawing back the $100 billion of unspent COVID dollars that are still out there. Instead of 87,000 IRS agents, we'll make sure that we go after the hundreds of billions of dollars in COVID fraud that we had. 1 out of every $7 was spent fraudulently. If 8% of our budget is interest, quit borrowing. Cut up the credit cards. You have to balance a budget every day. I had to balance a budget as governor. Why is Congress the only group that refuses to balance a budget? We will eliminate the federal gas and diesel tax in this country. I will stop the spending, stop the borrowing, eliminate the earmarks, and will veto any spending bill that doesn't take us back to pre-COVID levels. That will save us trillions. We'll cut taxes on the middle class, and we will make small business tax cuts permanent. Small businesses are the heartbeat of our economy. We need to start acting like it. And then when you look at the border, you see complete chaos and just total irresponsibility at the border. And I've been to the border, and you wouldn't believe what I saw. Mounds of clothes, mounds of paraphernalia, all of these things, rape areas that women and girls have to walk through. When you get up in the morning, you get your coffee and you watch the news. When these ranchers get up in the morning, they get their coffee and they go see if anybody died crossing the fence. They pick up whatever little kids are left behind and they turn them over to Border Patrol. I met with multiple sheriffs. They said before 7 a.m. they round up whatever illegal immigrants they can find. They turn them over to Border Patrol. Border Patrol documents them and releases them until their court date years from now. And when I asked Border Patrol about their job, they said, you want to know what we do? We're glorified babysitters. They don't let us do our job. 8 million illegal immigrants have crossed that border. We had enough fentanyl cross the border that would kill every single, we had enough fentanyl cross the border that would kill every single American. Number 1 cause of death for adults 18 to 45, fentanyl. And don't think for a second China doesn't know what they're doing. So the way we'll deal with it is in South Carolina, I passed one of the toughest illegal immigration laws in the country. We did E-Verify. We'll take that national. We'll do a national E-Verify and require businesses to show that the people they hire are in this country legally. We will defund sanctuary cities once and for all and get rid of these safe havens. We will make sure that we go back to the Remain in Mexico policy so that no one even steps foot on U.S. soil. And instead of catch and release, we'll go to catch and deport. That's how we'll deal with the border. And there were 2 things. You can clap for that. There were 2 things at the United Nations that Russia, China, and Iran never wanted us to have. They never wanted us to have a strong military, and they never wanted us to be energy independent. We won't be energy independent. We'll be energy dominant. We will make sure we do an all-of-the-above energy approach. We need to make sure that we get the EPA out of the way. Right now, they care more about sagebrush lizards than they do if we can afford our utility bill. We need to make sure we speed up our permitting process. We need to open up the Keystone Pipeline. We need to export as much liquefied natural gas as we can. We need to focus in on biofuels, and not just enough. Let's do enough we can export out. Let's turn it into an economic powerhouse. We will support the renewable fuel standards, and we will make sure that we get our energy system in such a way that not only does it help our economy, but no more going hat in hand to Saudi Arabia. No more getting dirty oil from Iran or Venezuela. And when it comes to our farmers, I'm from an agricultural state. I grew up playing on a cotton field and at a dairy farm. Farmers are your ultimate survivors. They can't control the weather. They can't control pricing. And the last thing they need is government pushing down on them more. Whether it's mandating through the EPA, mandating water, mandating everything else. Food security has always been national security. Energy security has always been national security. And we need to start treating it that way. And so that's why we will be a partner when it comes to our energy producers and a partner with our farmers. But in order And there's another issue that we have. Iowa is very tied to China. And China is our #1 national security threat. I dealt with China every single day at the United Nations. We won't wait for Iowa to pull the rug out from under. We won't wait for China to pull the rug out from under Iowans. Instead, we'll get in front of it. We'll go to our alliances. We'll focus on India, on Japan, on South Korea, on Australia, on Israel, and start making sure that we move our trade over to those countries that are friends. That's what a president is supposed to do. India just gave themselves $1 billion stimulus to become less dependent on China. Japan did the same thing. Let's go and move that trade over. Y'all already see now, when China buys something, they place an order, and then they cancel the order. And then they wait and buy it at cheaper prices. That's what China does. We need to start working with friends where you don't have to worry about things like that. And I know how we can get that done. And then we need to focus on national security. You hear everybody saying, well, should we support Ukraine or should we support Israel? Should we support Israel or should we secure the border? Don't let them lie to you like that. That's a false premise. Our focus is always on national security. And what I saw at the UN, every day, dictators, thugs, and terrorists always tell us what they're going to do. They're extremely transparent. Hamas said they were going to go into Israel, and they did. China said they were going to take Hong Kong. We watched it. Russia said they were going to invade Ukraine. It happened. China now says they're going to take Taiwan. We better believe them. Russia said once they take Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next. Those are NATO countries, and that puts America at war. This is about preventing war. It's always been about preventing war. If we supported Ukraine, that's only 3.5% of our defense budget. That's it. The Europeans are paying more than that, and they should. It's their neighborhood. Israel is the tip of the spear when it comes to defeating terrorism. If we support Ukraine and Israel, that's only 5% of our defense budget. And when it comes to securing our border, that should be priority #1. America's acting like it's September 10th, and we better remember what September 12th felt like, because it only takes one. If we support Ukraine and support Israel and secure the border, that's less than 20% of Biden's green subsidies. So don't let them make you think that you have to choose. We choose national security. We choose preventing war. And we choose them telling you the truth. I will always tell you the truth. I will always give you all the information I have. We have a country to save. And right now, we've got a country in disarray and a world on fire. And you are 4 days away from voting in the caucus. And what I can tell you is this is very sobering for me. Because 6 months ago, I dropped my husband, who's a combat veteran from Afghanistan, that served in Afghanistan. I dropped him off at 4 a.m. for another year-long deployment. And I watched him and 230 soldiers pick up their 2 duffel bags of belongings, to go to a country they've never been, all in the name of protecting America. They're willing to sacrifice their lives and their families because they still believe in this amazing experiment that is America. So if they're willing to sacrifice for us there, shouldn't we be willing to fight for America here? Because we have a country to save. But in order to do that, we've got to acknowledge some hard truths. Republicans have lost the last 7 out of 8 popular votes for president. That's nothing to be proud of. We should want to win the majority of Americans. But the only way we're going to do that is if we elect a new generational leader that leaves the negativity and the baggage behind and focuses on the future and the solutions going forward. And we have to also look at the fact that we can't have another nail-biter of an election. We cannot afford a President Kamala Harris. That should send a chill up everybody's spine. And if you look at the polls, head to head, look at any of them. Ron doesn't defeat Biden. Trump is head to head with Biden. On a good day, he might be up by 2. In every one of those polls, I defeat Biden by double digits, 17 points in the Wall Street Journal poll. Do you know what that means? That's bigger than the presidency. That's governorships, that's House, that's Senate, that's school boards. You go into D.C. with a mandate like that, a double-digit win, that's a mandate to get our economy back on track and get spending under control. That's a mandate to get our kids reading again and go back to the basics in education. That's a mandate to secure our border, no more excuses. That's a mandate for law and order back in this country, and that's a mandate for a strong America that we can be proud of. Don't you want that? Because we could have that. But in order to do that, it's going to take a lot of courage. Courage from every single person in this room. Courage for me to run. And courage for every one of you to know. Don't complain about what happens in a general election if you don't play in this caucus. It matters. Now, I have seen the commercials that you see. And I know y'all are ready to get the commercials to go away and the text messages to go away and the mail to go away. And you got 4 more days and then it will be quiet. But these fellas have spent a lot of time lying about me. And so I'm going to spend time telling the truth about them. Ron DeSantis just came here and spoke to you. Did he tell you that he authored legislation to ban the renewable fuel standard? Did he tell you that he co-sponsored 5 different bills to ban the renewable fuel standard? Did he tell you he called out Trump and told him to stop offshore drilling in federal waters? Did he tell you that he banned fracking? Did he tell you that he banned offshore drilling? Because he did. And Trump wants to say, I'm opposed to building a wall? No, what I said is you can't just build a wall. You got to do more than that to stop the flow of illegal immigrants. Look, it's silly season. But I have been I took a double-digit unemployment state and turned it into an economic powerhouse as governor of South Carolina. I was at the UN and I dealt with Russia, China, and Iran every day. I know what it means to put them on their heels, and I know what it means to make America strong. We can do this. The reason I'm running is because my parents came here 50 years ago to an America that was strong and proud and full of possibilities. I want them to know that country again. I'm doing this for my husband and his military brothers and sisters because I want them to know their sacrifice matters, that we do love our country. I'm doing this for my daughter who just got married, and I saw how hard it was for her and her husband to buy a home. The average home buyer now is 49 years old. The American dream is getting away from us. And I'm doing this for my son, who's a senior in college. And I'm tired of watching him write papers of things he doesn't believe in just to get an A. That's not us. That's not America. And for the first time, 81% of Americans don't think their kids are going to live as good of a life as we did. We can't be okay with that. I'm not okay with that. We do have a country to save. But I'll promise you this. If you join with me in this movement, if you join with me in this fight, I promise you that our best days are yet to come. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Carbon capture pipelines have operated safely in the United States for decades. And technology like the Wolf Carbon Solutions, Mount Simon Hub, will bolster the farm economy and further support the growth of the ethanol industry while reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Carbon capture and storage projects like the Mount Simon Hub will pave the way for a cleaner, economically resilient, and sustainable future.
It's important because we need to look at the next generation. What's it going to take to be viable, to be profitable, to be sustainable in that next generation? And I believe carbon capture is going to be part of that picture because it's going to help us be able to capture markets that otherwise we wouldn't have with our products. It's going to be able to enhance economic growth within our rural communities. I think these are things that are going to make agriculture in that next generation be very beneficial, be very profitable, and be very sustainable.
Farmers are a critical solution for low carbon biofuels and maximizing tax credit opportunities. Farmers and biofuel companies can work together